think didn't belong there. He was the fourth-ranked tennis player in the world. So us being out of place is wherever white people think we don't look like we belong. And police act like they're supposed to act. They've been trained to act that way. Police in our existence with police, they've always existed to do one thing: keep us in our place, and that's physically and emotionally. That's physically. I want you afraid, and I want you staying where you belong. We have to change the way we are policed. I think it is ironic that it takes 6 months to become a cop and 12 months to become a cosmetologist. So it's easy to shoot a nigga and to cut his hair. And every time something happens like this, they send police officers to racial sensitivity training. Look, I don't need a hug. I just need not to get shot. We need to be treated as if we actually are customers. As if we, from our very introduction, is that we are suspicious, that we don't belong. How many times are somebody shot right now because the police show up, because somebody called them, and they think, oh, they don't belong, and they get killed? We are quick. I don't care. Alton Sterling, the police will call. Michael Brown, the police will call. Trayvon Martin, the police will call. Where somebody thought, wow, this guy doesn't look like he belongs. We've had a Harvard professor in his own home, his neighbor called because he looked like he didn't belong there. I don't know how you look like you belong somewhere. I don't know how you look suspicious, but I suspect that it's because you don't have the right hue for your situation. But the bottom line is, we are paying customers. We are paid customers. We pay customers when we walk into restaurants. We pay to live in our neighborhoods. We pay policemen. We pay to be treated humanely. Like, I don't think that it has to be mutually exclusive. I don't think that we should have police in our neighborhoods. We should be able to feel protected. Because we pay the price for it. But we should also be treated humanely. Treat us as if we actually belong somewhere. You know, a lot of times I turn around and an unarmed black dude is shot by the police.
I just gotta say, fuck this dude right here.
The last time a black dude got shot by a police officer that actually had a gun. You haven't seen a nigga with a gun since the Dirty Harry movie. We are people that go places now. We are people that travel. We are people that want to see things. We live in other communities. Get used to seeing us. We're only strange because of what you have in your head and what you have in your heart. And that's bias. When you call a policeman, know this. When you call that policeman and something happens, that's on you. Just like when that girl called the policeman on that guy at a Target with a toy gun and he gets shot, that's on you and you should be charged for it. You should be charged for it. Because policemen don't do what they do. They should also be trained that they don't have to escalate to violence every time something happens. Or insults every time something happens. We are people. The customer is always right, even if you ain't always white. That's a little note from the GED section. We got the Jazz Report coming up. In less than 15 minutes. Of course, it's the DL Hughley Show.
So, what you guys just heard was D.L. Hughley talking about the two Starbucks incidents, the two consecutive Starbucks incidents. Literally, one day later, another incident happened. So, if you guys aren't familiar with this, I'm glad I waited. I waited just one extra day to do a video on this, and here we go. Already, there's something more coming out. This is why I usually wait when stories first break. If you give a story 2, 3, 4 days, there's always follow-up information or something new that transpires. So, for you guys who are not aware, this gentleman here, shown in this photograph, the black gentleman in the middle, he was one of the two gentlemen in Philly 2 days ago who was arrested in a Starbucks for just sitting and waiting for their white friend who was the gentleman with the gray vest on. They were waiting for him. They were conducting business, right? They were conducting business. They were waiting for the white man to come. They get arrested because apparently now the police chief completely fabricated this story and said that the men were making a scene, they were disturbing the peace, so on and so forth. But that's not actually the case. These two gentlemen were sitting peacefully and quietly waiting for their friend to show up. But this is what happens. And I believe the woman, she was a white woman. And this is what happens more times than not. A white woman, for some reason, has this unconscious, this illogical, irrational fear of black men. For some reason, because the black men aren't paying attention to her, then she has to do something to make her presence known. Because 9 times out, I mean, anyway, so this is what happened, right? This is what happened to these two gentlemen. They were arrested. So immediately there were protests that broke out. The CEO of Starbucks, calls for immediate action for this. He apologized to the two men because this his words were, "This is reprehensible." And just the very next day, his brother goes into a Starbucks. Now, apparently, he had asked for the code to use the restaurant, and he was denied the code because he wasn't "quote unquote" a paying customer or he hadn't purchased anything. A white guy comes in and asks for the code, but here's the thing: the white guy had planned on purchasing something, but the lady at the counter didn't know that. She didn't know that. He just asked for the code and she gave it to him. So the brother waited for the gentleman to come out of the restroom and asked him, "Did you purchase anything before you used the restroom?" And the guy was like, "No." He's like, "I was just going to purchase some food or something, but I hadn't bought anything, yet." Oh, and by the way, you can check these videos out on the Advice Show. Phil covered both these stories as they broke. And this woman here who claims she's the manager of the Starbucks, as soon as the man approached her about her racism, her biasness, as soon as he approached her and said, "How come I can't get the key, or get the code to the restroom? Is it because I'm black? Is it because of my skin color? Here's a white man who you gave the code before he purchased something, but I couldn't get the code before I purchased something because I'm black." And the woman immediately said, "Oh, you're trespassing, you're doing this, you're doing that." But why would she immediately have such a violent reaction to being recorded doing something so racist? That's because she was caught up and she was trying to do the only thing she can, get the black man out of there. And of course, a cop showed up and had to intervene. You know what I'm saying? Not actually trying to find out what happened in the situation, but just so he can be there to escort the black man out of Starbucks. Because of course, as you just heard D.L. Hughley explain, that's what the cops are here for. I don't know if you guys know this. We pay taxes which pay the cop's salary. Any cop that tells you that is fucking full of shit. Because any state that has a budget for the fucking police, your taxes to that fucking state help go into the salary of what the police departments negotiate with any city or state that they're in. So any cop that tells you that your taxes don't pay that salary, they're fucking stupid. Police forces are privately run organizations. They're not necessarily controlled or by the state. They're privately run. They're separate from the city that they actually operate in. They're not a product of the city. You guys understand that, right? They get private fund. They can be funded privately. You understand what I'm saying? A wealthy community can fund their own police force. So they are there to do what they've always been done ever since the end of the quote unquote pseudo end of slavery. They were there to keep us in check, to keep us out of white communities, and keep us from looting, or not just us, or keep white businesses from being looted and protected. You understand what I'm saying? That was their purpose. Their purpose has grown, or their definition has evolved over time, but that's their main purpose, as you can see by what they actually do, who they're actually interested in policing. Now, the two brothers in Philly. We're talking about Philly now. Philly is just 45 minutes away from Baltimore, and Philly is not a place for suckers. I'm gonna tell you straight up. Philly is a rough ass city. It's a rough motherfucking city. You understand what I'm saying? And there is a very thriving drug community in Philly, meaning that there's gunplay. People get murdered in Philly. It was like 6, 7 cops in the Starbucks for these two brothers. How many people you think were shot in Philly, or how many people were robbed? How many actual crimes were committed while these fuckers were in Starbucks arresting these two brothers? How many crimes do you think they could have averted just by their presence had they not been harassing two black men who weren't doing anything? They're not taking their time to go into the hood and arrest black men who are actually doing wrong shit, or white men, or Puerto Ricans for that matter, or any other race of people or nationality of people. No, they're taking the time out of their day to arrest two civic-minded, I don't want to say civilly obedient, but they were not causing a scene. These brothers, even after being harassed by the police, did not make a scene. They went quietly. They didn't make a scene. They didn't fight. They didn't resist arrest because they knew that they would be murdered in Starbucks had they done that. So, my question to black people is, when the fuck do we stop allowing this to happen? Why in the fuck we spend over $1 trillion in this country, and I don't think I think less than 1% of that trillion probably goes to black owned businesses. Aren't there black coffee houses out there? I mean, real talk, black people, when the fuck do we stop patronizing white businesses? Because this is how they treat us. And you know why they treat us like that? Because they don't give a fuck about our dollar. That's why they don't care about us. That's why they don't mind kicking us out of their establishments, because they don't fucking feel like they need our dollar, or they know you're gonna spend your money with them regardless. You know what I'm saying? Hey, listen, I'm not telling people what to do with their money, but all I'm saying is we live in a fucking police state, and we always have. This is the way we've always been treated in this country. You understand what I'm saying? This is the way we've always been treated in this country. White people are starting to wake up and speak out. They're starting to, but white people, you guys have to understand, we cannot get rid of white supremacy. That is not a black man's job to get rid of white supremacy. How the fuck can we? It is white people's duty to get rid of white supremacy in corporate America, in our government, which is prevalent in our government. Because if it wasn't, why the fuck would there ever be a 100-to-1 racial disparity if our government wasn't based on the premise of white supremacy? And I say premise because it's not superiority at all. It's inferiority. But we think about it. And no one in our government, all the liberal white people in our government, those who will tell you that they're not racist, how many of them have you ever heard speak up about the 100-to-1 ratio? How many of them have you ever heard speak up about it or fight to eradicate it? None of them, because white people understand that they have privilege. And if there was true equality, then they would lose that privilege. They can be as liberal as they fucking want. Black people want to associate themselves with the Democratic Party so much, but they never ask the right questions. How come the right for black people to vote is something that still has to go up to Congress and be decided on? How come we have a license to vote and not a right to vote? Why is that? Why is that? Why the fuck is there such a limited number of black people that actually are in the House of Representatives and the Senate? Why is there such a limited number? Why the fuck is there a 100-to-1 racial disparity in the law? Why is that? Why the fuck aren't the Democrats fighting for true equality? They're fighting to get the black vote, but then they're not fighting for you to be equal. Listen to this, man. I cannot remember this quote. If any of you remember who made this quote, please say so. Don't be scared. Put some shit in the comment section. Stop acting like suckers. There was a quote. It said, when the abolitionists had fought and helped the black people fight against slavery and win their, and quote unquote, win their freedom, black people then came back to those same abolitionists to ask them, now we need to fight for equality because we're not being treated fairly. And the white abolitionist said, I never said anything about making you equal. You guys understand that? They never fought for us to be equal. They didn't think us being enslaved was right, but they never necessarily considered us to be equal to them. And that's not all the abolitionists, but think about it. Immediately after 1865, when the 13th Amendment was drafted, I believe it was ratified the following year in January, I believe, we get 100 years of Jim Crow and the insurrection of the Ku Klux Klan. And neither one of those died for 100 years. Which showed you that white people were not interested in us being considered equal to them. They just didn't think we should be treated like animals, but not necessarily equal. Like, they don't mistreat their dogs. They love their dogs, but their dogs aren't people, and they know that. Kind of the same view that they had of us, and probably still have. So I don't want to hear shit about liberal white people. I don't give a fuck. Because you liberal white people aren't fighting for the same shit we're fighting for. We want equal rights for everybody and blah, blah, blah. Everybody else seems to have equal rights. Black people are the only ones who seem to not have an equal standing in this fucking country. We're the only ones who seem to not actually have equal rights. They're not fighting for the shit that matters. No white person on this planet that I've heard of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never heard any white person stand out in front of a crowd and fight for reparations for black people. Even Bernie Sanders, a man who ran in his last presidential election, a man who I would have actually voted for to be president, president because of his work he did in the civil rights era and how many times he was arrested, and probably by Jeff Sessions, no doubt, because Jeff Sessions was locking up a lot of people during protests, peaceful protests during the civil rights era. I would have voted for Bernie Sanders, but even him, a liberal white man who believes that the mistreatment of black people is deplorable, do not think that we deserve reparations. And you know what? Whether we get reparations or not isn't our problem, because we've shown as a people that with or without reparations, we're going to fucking survive and we're going to make it and make it do what it do. So you don't have to give us reparations. Leave us the fuck alone. Why can't you motherfuckers understand that? Leave us alone. Leave us the fuck alone. Leave us alone. You white people are fucking terrified and you're only scared because you know you're guilty of what the fuck we always accuse you of. That's why you're scared. This irrational, illogical fear isn't based on nothing. It's based on the fact that you know you're fucked up in the game and you're terrified that we're going to retaliate. That's why you're afraid. That's why you're afraid. That's why you're scared. And as soon as you fuckers admit it, we can move on past this. But you're too pussy to actually admit that you're scared of black people. But every time a black man shows up on the scene and a white person thinks you don't belong, that's exactly what they're proving to you, that they're afraid of you. We see that. We know that shit. I don't know why the fuck y'all don't think we don't see it, but you're terrified. Even if you're the toughest white dude on the planet, like a lot of these cops think they are, you're terrified. Which is why the first thing they say is, I was afraid for my life. I thought the black man was gonna beat me up. You fucking pussies. Anyway, black people, when do we get tired of this, man? That's all I'm saying. When do we get tired of this? When the fuck do we stop spending our money with white corporate America who doesn't give a fuck about us? Because white people are the majority, and as long as white people are the majority, that's all they're concerned about so far as their consumer base is concerned. You understand? At least that's what they show. But if we stop spending our money with them, they'll see it. But they know that anything that white people spend their money on, black people will spend their money on. We have to break that psychological trap and break free from that shit and start to do shit that benefits us as a whole. The police don't give a fuck about us. White America continues to show us that they don't care. Individuals like the Starbucks owner or CEO comes out and say this is reprehensible, but white people as a whole aren't standing up and fighting against it. Where the fuck is the Democratic Party when these things happen to black people? Where are they? Why aren't you guys asking the right fucking questions? Stop spending your money frivolously with fucking white America. They don't care about you. They don't give a fuck. Now, I can honestly say that I think the tide is shifting. I think that people are becoming a lot more aware of racism and white supremacy, and I think that a lot more white people are becoming aware of the fact that this superiority complex that they seem to have really is an inferiority complex. I think there are a lot of people who are starting to realize that shit and how completely daft and just devoid of all logic and rationale racism, white supremacy actually is. But this is our struggle. This is our fight. This is what we have to keep on dealing with constantly, over and over and over and over again. This is what we have to keep dealing with. You know what I'm saying? This is what we have to deal with. You can't go into a Starbucks as a black man and use the restroom, but a white man can, and that's okay. And this should happen right in fucking LA. Forgot about that. This happened right in fucking LA. Right in LA. And the dude was cool. He didn't mind answering the questions or anything like that. But why? Why? Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about, guys. I wanted to keep you guys abreast of this situation, let you guys know what was going on, because I hadn't seen too many videos that had actually put this out there. But Phil from the Advice Show definitely, I don't know what the fuck they got to do with Starbucks, but Phil from the Advice Show is definitely on top of this. But for if you guys actually want to see the videos, go to the Advice Show YouTube channel and check it out, man. Phil does some excellent reporting on these situations. But this has got to stop. This is 2 consecutive days where this has happened. Now this is the 3rd day. I'm ready to. I'm waiting to see what the fuck else is gonna happen, because you know something else is gonna happen. Maybe not with Starbucks, but some white person somewhere is gonna do something ignorant and stupid, that's going to make national news, or at least it should. But anyway, man, this is what we got to deal with in this country. This is what we've always had to deal with. We need to stop fucking shrugging that shit off like it doesn't matter. Like we can just, oh yeah, just let's just keep moving on and turn the other cheek. You turn the other cheek. You gonna turn the other cheek so much one day you won't have no motherfucking cheeks left. I don't believe in turning the other cheek. I believe in turning your motherfucking cheek. But anyway, that's all I got, guys. Leave a comment in the comment section if you choose to. If you have something to say about this, any opinions about this, you guys should have opinions about this, because most of you are black, and you shouldn't be happy with the treatment of our people in these public places that we patronize. You shouldn't be happy about this at all. This is something that continues to happen, and it seems to get glossed over by the media because, the media is controlled by the people who hate us the most. So that's all I got, guys. I'm out. Peace.